Hey, welcome back to the Trevor Tysmith Show. Today, I'm going to be talking with my good friend Dominic Marchesi. He is a former collegiate athlete just like myself, so we're going to go through some of the training style things that we've done to get to that level, but I know we have to start. Dominic, did you hear or see the smack heard around the world?
Man, that thing with Chris Rock and Will Smith was unbelievable. I mean...
Could you imagine, though, like, what was he thinking when he got out of his seat and walked up there? Do you think that he thought, we're going to get physical. This is it. I'm going to have to smack you. I'm going to have to punch you. Like, something's going on. Or do you think that it was really just instinctually he was on his way up, didn't know what he was going to do?
I mean, I think he had no clue what he was going to do. I know he was going to go up there and confront him, right? But I think at the end of the day, you know, if somebody's going to be talking about my wife like that, you know, and I think it's been going on for quite a while now where he's been making jokes and things like that about his wife, about Jada.
Yeah, what was it that we saw in a previous award show or something? He cracked some joke about her that's been all over social media.
I can't remember what it was, but it was everywhere too. And I think, you know, Will Smith, I think at the beginning of it, he's laughing about the joke because that's what you do when you're in show business, right? But whenever you've had enough. I mean, people always get to the point where they've had enough of something, and then you just react. I mean, everybody does it.
I got to ask, though, the one bone I have to pick with the situation is who smacks someone or punches someone and immediately turns around and walks away.
I mean, see, that's why I think could have been staged. I don't know, you know? Because, I mean, if I get hit by somebody, I guess they're in a whole different echelon of people, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know how I would react to that.
If you take out that little end deal where he is, giving his verbal communication or whatever, what did he say exactly? Something with the F-bomb. It was definitely some vulgar language. He was hot to try.
It was not kid-friendly.
But but if you took that out of it, to me it looks fake. And I kind of see the smack, and when you look at it on frame rates are a big deal, right? If they're shooting that thing in a low frame rate, maybe you lost just the frame where there was an impact. But to me, it looked like a movie-style smack. I mean, didn't look like he made contact. There was no red on his face afterwards that you could tell in the actual video. Maybe he got a little bit of makeup. It doesn't show through. There's some questions to be had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would just I don't know. I don't know what I would do in that situation, being in front of all those people. I can see where you're talking about it being, you know, fake with him being slapped and all this and that. I mean, his feet kind of slipped out from underneath him. Could have been because of shoes. I don't know. But all I know is if I get slapped by somebody, I don't care who they are, I'm probably going to slap back.
Well, that was the craziest thing I thought about the whole deal was it seemed like, okay, if you're going to smack the guy, are you not going to get ready for retaliation? Where is the retaliation coming? To me, it looked like I walk up, I give him a smack, I made my point. He committed to walking back like instantly. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, credits to Chris Rock for having that much self-restraint, you know. I mean, kudos to him.
Have you seen all the jazz about how they're kind of insinuating, hey, Chris Rock is about to go on tour, hasn't been on tour for a while. Is this really kind of a promo? I don't know. They made up right after it was over. There's just an awful lot of instances where I kind of question whether or not this was a legitimate smack and whatnot. And
right. Well, and you know, with that being said, you know, Chris Rock's getting ready to go back on tour and that movie. What's the name of that movie they just made with Serena Williams? That was depicting their lives or whatever.
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, it won the award. But in that video or in that movie, they're talking about, you know, how Serena and Venus, right?
Yep.
How their dad was like, you know, very protective of their family and this and that. So it could have been a play on both, right? Both the movie plus, you know, Chris Rock's tour. I don't know. Nobody knows. You know.
I don't know. Either way, Chris Rock is coming out of there with some great material for his show. His future, you know, you got to think it's going to be in there. How do you go on tour and not be mentioning this? And how do you not look like a bit of a punk? You know, he got punked out for sure and didn't really do much with it. And unfortunately, the joke was about, the G.I. Jane, which would have been fine, but you've got a whole lot of preloaded stuff with the whole hair loss deal that's a rough joke to put out there when you've got some real conditions taking place,
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I forgot what I was going to say.
Have you? Oh, no big deal. Have you ever? Are you big into watching the award show? I feel like award shows almost have been non-existent for most of America.
No, I mean, whenever you sent me that message about that, I was like, Chris Rock got slapped by Will Smith. What the heck's going on? Like, I didn't even know the award show was going on. But I mean, now, if you think about ratings and stuff like that as well for TV shows, I mean, if the award ceremony is down in ratings, how are you going to get ratings to go up?
I kind of wonder what their ratings, if you put it on like a plot chart, what they looked like immediately there after that. Because you got to imagine that was early in the award show. Boom. Did they spike? Did everybody turn it on, or did everybody do what I did and sat on the internet and looked for all the clips? I mean, kudos to the internet. Could there be anything more funny than flipping through social media on every meme that's ever created? Oh man, it kills me. There's a lot of funny people out there. There really is.
Oh yeah. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just crazy. I think with that, with the rating thing, and then now, it's blowing up on social media, like you're saying, everywhere. So how else are you going to get more views and more, interaction within the show than to have something spike at the very beginning of it? Could it be a conspiracy? I don't know.
I don't know. The only thing that I kind of struggle with the conspiracy concept is I don't really think the Oscars benefit. It doesn't mean that people are going to be watching award show from here on out. Like there's going to be a lined up ring for everybody to duke it out when they have a problem. The Oscars are not going to win out of this situation. Will Smith looks a little bit like a loose cannon, but I can't imagine he's going to have any issues with it. Chris Rock probably gets some decent material coming out of it when he goes on tour, but it's going to be interesting for him to spin that in a positive light. First of all, you cracked a joke about a women's condition. That's going to be a tough one to walk through. You also called out, you got punked out on stage. You got open hand smack. Talk about the ultimate level of disrespect. Wha-bam!
I just remember seeing his face. He's boom.
He brought it together quick, though. You got to give it to that
He really
dude.
did.
Could you imagine getting smoked in the face, bringing it back in, and continuing with your performance? It's just, it's kind of crazy. I wonder if the coasts are doing different things. In the Midwest, sometimes people look at things a little bit more conservatively. They're not really into the award show. I feel like the last decade has been terrible for that atmosphere. And you kind of wonder what the coast really looks at it. Does the West Coast, East Coast, the more, I don't know what you call liberal sides of things, are they just really, really fired up about this? Or is it all just going to get slid under the rug?
Yeah, I think we're going to hear about it for a little while. I think that it will kind of teeter off, because there's something else that's going to happen. Just like there always is.
Doesn't take long, does it?
No, Chris Rock and Will Smith have been around for a long time, so they've worked with each other before, and they're professional about the things that they go through. I think they'll be okay. I think everybody will come out smelling like a rose, just like they always do.
Would you love to be on a fly on the wall at the after party? As well as I do, if you get in any kind of a skirmish. Everybody out there has been in some kind of a confrontation. If you're an athletic dude, you've been in some kind of a situation. And the amount of razzing and dazzling the rest of the night, talking about the event, talking about the conflict with all your boys, you kind of wonder what that would have been like in that room. Was it boasting, or was Will Smith literally still crying about it? I mean, how do you go up and smack somebody and then shed tears nonstop? Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know how that kind of works out. I know heck, if you and I are hanging out, or, my buddies are up here or whatever, something like that happens. If I get smacked, I'm going to get roasted.
Yeah, for both parties. Chris Rock, how do you walk out there being a confident man with your chin held high? Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I don't know. Will Smith out here crying on stage. No one is going to, I hate to say it, but you can't tell me that special is not going to include a call out of the Will Smith tears.
Oh, it's going to be like the Jordan tears, right? Like,
yeah. This guy is oh, yeah. How many memes we're going to see of the tears? I mean, it's going to be unreal. It really is. You think he'll be up there and he'll be cracking jokes about it. He'll probably mention something along the lines of he shouldn't have cracked the joke. He wasn't aware of his or her condition. And that's going to be the spin. It's going to be talking about what man gets up here, smacks another man, and then cries about it the rest of the night. That's what's going to happen. It will.
Yeah. I mean, and you can also take it to, Will Smith is protecting against, or, showing people to stick up to bullies and stuff like that as well. Because a lot of that's going on in schools, not saying that my son, he's in kindergarten now. He's not being bullied per se, but I mean, there's instances where I've seen like other neighborhood kids and stuff like that have come off the bus crying and things because of a bully at school.
Isn't that a tough thing to see once your kids get a little bit older and they get in that atmosphere where, people tease them and the things they say, man, there is nothing more heart-wrenching than hearing your kids getting made fun of or something.
I mean, it's terrible, and it pulls at my heartstrings. It's like, there's nothing I can do. I can't be there at school, to help these kids out or whatnot. And I know my son doesn't do it, because we don't raise him like that. But I mean, it's just a thing that happens every day. I mean, it's the nature of life now.
Have you got the secret little? My daughter, her thing is someone says stupid. Remember, we can't say stupid, Dad. Remember, we can't say. She has to say it 5 times before we move on, just because she knows that she can't say it. But we should say sorry for saying stupid, right, Dad? And I always get a kick out of that. It's like, I always quit saying it, would you?
I always get hey, Mom, Dad said the bad S word.
Uh-oh, not that one.
I drop something, I say that, the S word. Well, I mean,
yeah, what do you do?
It just happens sometimes. I don't know.
I think that kid thing is just, that's a tough one. It really is. I don't know that I used to ever be. I've been pretty guarded my whole life. Never really been a super emotional person. But I have 2 little girls. You got a boy and a girl. And when you got 2 little girls, something about it, just all of a sudden you come out to be a big weenie. You start, actually feeling some things. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But
I mean, you got to play the protector, right? And that's your role now as a father.
Yeah. I mean, have you haven't run into any of those types of situations yet?
Not yet. So my son plays hockey. And there's a couple times where, they're on the ice and they play, my son's 6 years old, right? So they play 6U, 6 and under. And there's a couple times on the ice where at the very beginning of the season, these kids would go in and like just attack my son, push him over, knock him down, do whatever.
Did he get his feelings hurt and stuff, or was it just part of the game?
It was just part of the game. And, he didn't really do anything about it, so this is me being me. After the game, I said, hey, buddy, you don't have to take that from him, right? Like, you can go after him, like do it in a way that you're going after the puck or something like that, but you can knock them over too if you have to. Not saying I condone violence, but you're playing hockey, right? So in hockey, you're constantly collusion with people.
I mean, just like
that,
just like any sport, though. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things where you're not. It's the fine line to walk where you're trying to teach a kid how to play the sport. Because, quite frankly, if he's going to get pushed around all the time and knocked down, he's going to be out of position to shoot later on in the game. You know what I mean? Like, if
Sure.
you need to hold your position to be able to score, then you need to make sure that they know they can't just come by and club you down real quick. And so. That's a tricky thing. You're trying to teach these kids how to play the game right and not condone, like, go smoke these other kids. But, hey, you can't get pushed around because if you ain't first, you're last.
Exactly. I mean? Well, and like with my son, he's a very good skater for his age. He's very fast on the ice. So, and he scores a lot of goals. He gets to the puck. He knows basically like the situational awareness of where he needs to be at on the ice, which is kind of crazy to me because this is his first year playing. I never played hockey, so I'm still learning the process as we're kind of doing this whole thing. But, I mean, he knows where he needs to be at. So he gets to the puck, he scores a goal, and goes back, gets back on the ice, and they come down, and he takes it, does whatever. So at that point, then we start playing these better teams. Now these kids are starting to come after him more because they know that he's the kid that's going to go to get the puck, right? And that's when all like the conflict stuff starts happening, within the game. But
I actually, growing up, I never watched hockey. I wasn't, we grew up in St. Louis, supposed to be this huge Blues fan, but I feel like your insane commitment to sports has to do with attending an event. If you go to a hockey game changer. I was in Colorado for a ski trip 2-3 weeks back, and it was getting some bad weather in Colorado, and we had to get out of the mountains. So we go back because we were flying out the next day, driving through a little bit of snow, but wasn't too bad. We get down in town, and we have enough time to get to the Avalanche Calgary game. And I mean to tell you, we were 5 rows back, and I'm a fan. I
bet that was cool.
It was very exciting. I mean, the show is great. Whoever made this projector thing where you project all these things on the ice, I mean to tell you, that is a very cool addition to putting on a show. You've got all this amazing sound. You've got the spotlights on the ice, Star Spangled Banner. We've got a flag on the ice. How cool is that? They played the Canada deal too. Their national anthem, put a Canadian flag on there. Got to see a fight. It was a really cool time.
Hockey is the most enjoyable experience to watch, as far as like all sporting events go, in my opinion. It's fast paced. There's always action. Like within like a baseball game or a football game or something like that, you go to one of those type of events. You get up, you go to the concession stand, you go to the bathroom while the whole action is going on because there's so much downtime. In hockey, if you miss 3 seconds of a game by looking over at your wife or helping your son or daughter do something, you're going to miss something. I can promise you that. Yeah,
there was one particular play. There was a turnover in front of the Avalanche goal, and I think McKinnon is his name. Sorry, guys, not a huge fan, just starting out here. But he got the puck, and he moved down the ice so fast. He scored a goal. I want to say it was in like 12 seconds of the turnover. So it was boom, turn the corner, and 12 probably was even a little long. I mean, he turned the puck around and moved all the way down, put a move on the goal, and he scored. I mean, it was it's such a fast-paced game, and it's fun to watch. And if you haven't actually been to it, I completely get it. It's not as cool on TV. It's hard to follow. You don't get how many line changes are occurring. You don't understand, like, a lot of the flow of the game is gone on TV.
Right.
But,
sorry.
I was just going to say, as soon as I saw it, now when I saw it on TV, I get it. Maybe that's why baseball and basketball and some of those things are a little different for me, because when I played them as a kid, I could relate instantly from seeing them on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, the cool thing is about going to one of those and starting to get into them, the hockey games, that is. Like, I remember my first game, which was legitimately probably like 4 years ago, was the first time I ever been to a hockey game. I never really watched hockey, and my buddies were like, hey, let's go to the hockey game. I'm like, okay, sure. So we go, and we're sitting kind of like mid-level, where you can kind of see like the whole ice, but you're still kind of just deep enough in where you kind of only see the action that's in front of you. And it was cool. It was a great experience. It was super fast right there, right? You kind of see the pucks going, the guys flying around. But then my second time I went to a hockey game, we sat like basically up in the nosebleeds in like a box seat, but like you got the whole aerial view of the ice. Which I thought was really cool, because then you got to see like how it actually worked, right? Meaning, how the plays develop and all this and that on the ice. It was just kind of really intriguing to me because, I played basketball back in the day, and you run through plays on the court, and you kind of figure all that out. And it was kind of see that transfer over into the hockey realm for myself anyway.
I think one of the coolest things, and you may be the same way, is when you're at that upper level view, it's interesting to see the limitations of skating on ice come into like the ultimate execution of where you can turn the corner and keep all your speed, how you can transition through the defense and pass the puck right in front of the net, but it requires you to come around the back of the. It's just kind of, as soon as you see the flow of the game, in my opinion, is a completely different experience. And I kind of wish that I got into that a lot earlier. I mean, I've been to a ton of Chiefs games, and watching a hockey game, I don't know that I didn't enjoy a hockey game live more than football.
Oh, I can guarantee you that. I enjoy hockey, watching hockey, way more than any sport, just because it's so fast paced.
Right, right.
And I joke with my mom and dad all the time. I'm like, how come you guys never got me into hockey? Well, it's so expensive. Well, yeah, I get that, but like, I would have been good at hockey. Like, it's fun. We had at the end of the year, we had an end of the year wrap up practice, right, for my son's team, and it was parents versus the kids, right? It was like a little scrimmage game against them. And I tell you what, I had never had so much fun in my life.
Really?
I mean, just skating around, because like, I'm a decent skater. I wouldn't say I'm the best skater in the world, but I can stop and, do some of the normal functions of a hockey player, right? But like, just getting the puck, and like, it's just something different about going out there with a puck and a stick and, trying to score a goal, right?
Did you ever do like roller hockey and things like that as a kid? I mean, we played tons in my basement growing up.
No, I mean, yeah, we played like floor hockey, right? Like in gym, like running around the floor with the hockey stick and the hockey puck, which, it's fun, but man, that's a lot. It's tiring.
No, yeah, yeah. I understand. I get it. Now, do you think that, have you found that the hockey is any different than baseball in the sense of, are you doing it more days a week? Do you find it to be youth sports is a lot more of the same?
I mean, I would say from when you and I played baseball growing up, Little League and stuff like that, youth sports is completely different now. I mean, the hockey team, we're on the ice 3 to 4 nights a week for an hour. And they have 6 stations set up throughout the deal.
And this is 6 years old.
This is 6 years old, man. And it only goes more practices as they go up in age, right? So, like, next year he'll play 8U, which is 8 and under. But going back to the 6U thing, it's an hour of ice time. You had 6 teams practicing at a time. And you had 6 stations set up along the ice, 10 minutes each station. And they would do all kinds of drills, shooting drills, passing drills, skating drills. I would say probably about 80 to 85% of the practice was just them skating around.
Sure, still pretty young, though, learning how to turn corners.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, though, like with hockey, especially with ice hockey, if you can't skate, you can't play hockey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So their biggest focus around it all is just skating, which is great,
So growing up, I played soccer when I was young like that. And then I also refereed soccer all of high school, which was a cool income. You got to go out and have a little fun and run up and down the field, make some money on a Sunday. But I remember actually looking after and refereeing these 6 and under games. And I only did it for about a month because I thought it was so unbelievably boring. I mean, it's herd ball. You talk to any parent, they feel the same way. Everyone's just trying to learn the game. Is ice hockey at that age, is it a similar concept? Everyone just kind of sprinting after the puck and a little bit of a herd ball feel?
I would say at the beginning of the season, yes. It was kind of like everybody just moving pack to pack, right? Trying to find the puck. Towards the end of the season, I mean, since they are on the ice 3-4 nights a week, and they're playing games in between as well, they start to realize what do you call spatial recognition of the ice, of where they need to be at, the guy's skating this way with the puck and he's going to pass it that way. So I need to be over here in case he misses it, or I can come up and grab the puck. Right. It's really weird to me anyway, because growing up, I never had any sport that was like that for me. But seeing their growth in this whole process is astounding. I mean, it's incredible.
That's pretty awesome. What does that look like as a journey for a young athlete? Like, baseball, I feel like was a pretty drawn out process for us. We kind of knew what it took to get to the next level. You knew what you had to do to play college. You knew that there was an opportunity to possibly play pro if you were good enough. What does it look like in that world for a 6-year-old hockey player? Is there, are they all talking about, I'm going to play pro hockey, this is how we're going to do it? Or is it still kind of before all that?
No, it's kind of before all that still. I mean, granted, they're still all learning. A lot of times, from just talking with different hockey parents and stuff like that, the best 6U kids now will more than likely not be the best 12U kids, in 6 years. But it's all because of how they grow and, if they're still interested in the sport and things like that as well, right? I mean, I know my son will get home from an hour worth of hockey practice, and he'll want to go downstairs and shoot pucks for another hour and a half, 2 hours.
That's good that he still likes it. I've been seeing that burnout thing left and right. I talk to tons of parents all the time, and they've got these kids in 5 different leagues and this and that and playing 8 days a week. And I'm like, there's so many games. There's not enough days. You're up to thinking these kids are basically playing 8-10 days a week. There's only 7. You can't play that much. You really can't. You don't need to play 14 games in 7 days. It's not needed.
Yeah, and like the thing is, and that's why I always tell my wife, right, and I tell my son as well. I will do however much you want to do, right? I'm never going to push you to do anything. If you want to play a sport, we'll sign you up for it. If you like it, great. If not, no big deal, right? Especially with the hockey thing. Like when we first started this, I told my wife, I said, this is crazy. Like 4 nights a week on the ice and, with games mixed in between. Like this is a lot for these little guys,
6 years old. I mean, it's pretty. That's a lot on you guys, parents.
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, I saw my wife, 3 times a week, maybe.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Because the practices are at 5:30. So I'm basically getting my son off the bus and then loading up and going to practice. I mean, that's just kind of how it's been. But and then going back to talking about him wanting to do things and stuff like that. I'll sign him up for however much stuff he wants to do. Like he's like, Dad, can we do is there any kind of like camps that I can do? Is there a summer team I can play on?
Oh, sure. There's somebody out here trying to make money. There's something for you to sign up for.
So here we are. We're doing spring hockey, which is like 20 games. And then he's doing it's a camp that's like it's every Sunday starting, I think, in June, something like that. And it goes till basically the time that they try out for the 8U team next year. So it's going to be an exciting experience, I think, for him. Again, I don't push my son to play hockey. I don't push my son to play any sports. As long as he wants to do it, I'll let him do it. And I'll give him every avenue that he can, use to be as good as he can be at it.
Sure, you're just being a good parent. I mean, that's what it's all about. So when you were growing up, was there a time at which you felt or that you could remember that things started getting more serious for you in baseball? Was there a point at which you started going more nights a week? All of a sudden, everyone's wanting you to be on select teams. What was that time period, or what age were you when you think that started? Because 6, I don't remember 6 being the time for baseball when we were growing up.
No. I mean, so my baseball journey for myself is completely different than anybody's journey. I can promise you that. So I played T-ball 1 year, right? So probably 6 years old, 5 years old. I hated it. Couldn't stand it. It was too slow. I mean, I don't know if that was a coaching thing or whatnot, but like I didn't start playing baseball till I was in 7th grade.
Yeah, that's different than everybody for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like never really played. I played catch, but like I never really played a whole lot of catch growing up, or this and that. It was my basketball coach, played CYC basketball, okay? And at the end of practice, his son played baseball. And at the end of practice, they would play catch. So coach is like, hey, why don't you bring your baseball glove here next practice and we'll play catch with us afterwards.
We're just going to have a little fun, bring your glove.
Yeah, bring your glove. No big deal. He's like, you're left-handed. We'll see what you got. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I bring my glove and we're playing catch. And I always threw hard, as a kid. And coach is like, hey, you should really come play baseball for me. I'm like, nah, it's not my thing. It's too slow. I'm more of a basketball, soccer guy,
Yeah, because you're made for it. All that height.
Yeah,
and stuff
I got a lot of height here.
Yeah, the height. You're made for it. Yeah.
Yeah, center. I'm center material, right?
Yeah, like a 6'10" guy. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like 6'10", but different.
But like shorter and like not as tall.
Yeah, kind of. So he wanted me to play catch and play baseball for him and do all that kind of stuff. So probably after a few weeks, right, of us doing this thing, he's like, you need to play. I said, okay, I'll play 1 season, just 1. He said, okay. Well, ever since then I was hooked. Played outfield, did all that kind of stuff. But like thinking back to those practices, I mean, we practiced maybe twice a week and then had a game, right? Probably played like 12 to 20 games in the summer, type of thing. But then like 8th grade year is when I got into the more like select ball, right? Because I was good, right? Like good, whatever. And my coach's son was trying out for this team. He's like, you should try out for this team as well. And so I tried out, made the team, and it was just off to the races after that.
Yeah, as soon as you get in the word select, as soon as the word select is in there, all of a sudden you got practices every night, all that kind of stuff. I was a similar way, played city league stuff, and then all of a sudden, some point in middle school, you get in these select leagues. Now all of a sudden you're playing 4 or 5 nights a week, double headers on the weekend. And did you ever get burnt out anywhere through all that stuff, or did you always enjoy it?
So baseball for me became like an addiction, right? So like I always wanted more, right? So like I was a guy in high school that would, as soon as I got out of class, we had practice at like 4:00. I'd like, hey coach, let's, after school, before practice, can you meet me at the cage and let's hit until practice starts? So he would go down there with me after school, and I'd hit, for a while. And then I was also the kid that was like, hey, let's do some more after practice, coach. Can you help me out here? And I would hit more balls with him there. And then again, it was at home. Hey, Mom, will you throw me some soft toss in the net? So I did that. I was probably hitting back in the day, I would say 500 to 600 balls a day.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have the hitting quite as much. I mean, at an early age, I was a little taller and bigger than everybody, so it was pitching that was my deal, And I remember throwing buckets and buckets and buckets of balls into a net, just throwing heaters across the yard, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Probably the worst thing for your elbow and everything else as time goes on, how many I was throwing. But, if you got decent form and you're in shape and nothing hurts, you just let it rain.
That's it. I mean, and when you're little like that, or younger, I mean, your body heals like that, right? Like,
oh, the glory days. If
now,
I could go back that.
Now I wake up and I got a sore back. I'm like, what'd I do?
No, I get it. I can remember one time I was playing catch with my mom, and my brother came home or something, and he was going to be the catcher, and I had to work on, because again, I always practice throwing into this monster net. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of those pop-up nets, but they have that hang down strike zone.
Yeah,
but,
jugs Insta screen.
Yeah, but when you're actually throwing into it, it's too big in a sense. Yeah. It's not throwing to a glove. It's too big. If you're not really laser focused on some piece of it and you're really trying to hit just a small square, it kind of makes you really wild. That was what I found until later on when, a coach or someone had said, make sure you're really focused on something small. And boy, what a difference that made. Because I was just, hey, I hit the net. It's 8 feet across. I hit it,
Yeah, and I hit the square that's this big, right?
So my brother squats down. He's ready to play catch. He's got the glove up. My mom stands in the batter's box. I never had any idea where it was going. And I throw this heater. And, I don't really know how hard it would have been, but your distances were all different. So I was probably, 45 feet? Maybe if you could throw a ball 65 mile an hour at 45 feet, you're going to throw an absolute heater off someone. And I hit her in the ankle, and her ankle got so black and blue and huge. And I felt so bad. She was a trooper, though. She stood in there while I was just throwing gas. She had to have been terrified. And I mean terrified. I never knew where the ball was going. I had my thing. I'd come set. I'd take my breath. Heater! Oh, I remember that was what it was all about, man. How hard could you throw it? How hard can you throw it,
Well, yeah. How hard and for how long, right? Like,
yeah. I got another hour in me, Mom, where you going? She had this glove from, I want to say, 1985. This thing barely covered her fingers. She's just taking palm shot after palm shot in this glove. And we didn't really knew any different. I don't know that she thought that she needed to go buy a glove, but the one that she had, let me tell you, it was not large enough.
No padding in that one.
Yeah. Did you get any access to any types of trainers early on, like that were teaching resistance bands or working shoulders, or when did that stuff kind of become a part of everything?
No, so like I would say my freshman year in college, played at a JUCO here locally in St. Louis, and we did what they called Jobs, right? So it was like 2 pound, 3 pound weights, and you did, these guys, some arm raises.
Sure, all your rotator cuff
inside,
work
all your rotator stuff workouts. Then they implemented like some gym workout type things as well. But outside of that, we didn't really use a whole lot of band stuff. Did you guys use a whole lot of bands?
Well, I got pretty lucky. We had a guy named Brett Winchester where I think he's done some stuff with the Cardinals, and he travels all over now kind of teaching different formats of chiropractic, and they call it ART, where it's like massage therapy / whatever. And, we had access to him at a super young age. He came back after doing all of his schooling stuff and then was giving free classes. So we were doing tons of upper level mobility work for your hips and shoulders, doing all kinds of fundamental things for rotator cuffs, trying to stabilize your labrum and, make sure you weren't going to get hurt. But I was doing a lot of what I do now for K-Band's training. Shoot, I was in middle school, I think, when he started doing those. We'd go 2 days a week. I think he offered free sessions or training sessions and whatnot. So a lot of that stuff was a big part of everything, and probably why my arm held together throwing as much as I was,
Right. Yeah, so you had the different experience, right? Where like you started playing baseball when you were really little, and played throughout college, right?
Yeah, I almost got addicted to the training as much as I got addicted to baseball. I was all the way through it. It was working out on top of that. I mean, I was kind of an overweight kid, so I got introduced to the whole fat loss thing and trying to eat right at a pretty early age too, because let's be honest, getting made fun of is not that much fun. So I had to figure that one out right away. I'm like, hey, this is for the birds. I got to get rid of this. So I kind of had always been doing a ton of research and learning how to just achieve the goal that I wanted to achieve, and learning those things from that guy. I got addicted to training just as much as I did anything else, because I feel like if you go to a chiropractor or you go to someone that's doing rehabilitation stuff on you, there is no way you are not all in if they fix something.
Oh, 100%.
If you have a chronic deal going on that you're miserable and someone literally, takes you through some kind of a rehabilitation protocol, or you get going on their schedule and working out and they fix it, hey, I'm on board. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm on board. You know what you're talking about. I want to do more of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I was introduced to that probably in middle school. And I remember when I was first starting K-Band's training, I went to him with the K-Bands and some of the other products. And it was cool. I hadn't seen him in several years. And I kind of went through them with the product lineup that we were going to release. And what do you think about these things? Do you think that, they're as applicable or are they going to work just as well as what I'm seeing? I was training a whole bunch of athletes at the time, and I'm seeing great results. And he kind of walked me through the biomechanics and the elements of it that were insanely targeted with wearing the bands. And it was just a really cool experience. I haven't talked to him in probably a couple years now, but I'd like to get back with that guy. He's a really, really knowledgeable dude.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great for you guys, to kind of talk about, different things with the bands and how they can be implemented. And hell, there may even be some more things out there now that you could create something else for. You know what I mean? So that's something else to think about. Yeah,
I might have to get him on the podcast, ask him some questions.
Hey,
I've got all kinds of good questions for him. He'd be a heck of a guest. I know if I was a youth athlete and you had access to that kind of content, I mean, I can't tell you that's where I started K-Band's training. That was what it was all about. When I was growing up, if someone would have just told me exactly what to do to throw harder, I would have done anything they said. And
absolutely.
I would have done every rep. I would have done every set. I would have slept as much as you told me to sleep. I would have done everything imaginable. And, so I just started posting video after video after video and just trying to teach little kids on how to get better, There's nothing worse than not having the tools,
Right. Now, did you have any kind of like pitching instruction or like hitting instruction growing up as well?
I kind of had like a odd experience. I remember I was in like Corey or City League stuff, and we beat the number one, champion team or whatever, and I pitched that game, and I think I gave up like a 1 or a 2 hitter, and from then on, that team recruited me and wanted me to be on their select league. Obviously. So I went on their team, and again, my personality type is tell me what to do, and I will do exactly that. And it might have been to my own demise for an awful lot of my journey, because if you told me to raise my arm slot up a little bit, I would move it up 3 inches, and I would watch film, and I would throw from that arm slot over and over and over and over until I had it down. And to be quite honest, my arm slot is lower. And it might have been all the way until college, until I realized the natural abilities is a big part of sports. And you can do all the tweaking and form, all the tweaking and technique that you want. But there's this little bit of a, if you ever seen that movie where he's like the Carlness, you know what I'm talking about? He's like, you got the Carlness, you know, and what in essence, what he's talking about is you got that something special.
Right.
But as I've gone on through sports and athletics, it's like these coaches these days, I feel like your job is not to critique everyone's form and make them fit in one box. You have got to take every little athlete and realize what they're good at and make them the best at what they're good at. Because I think for several years, me throwing in a 3-inch higher arm slot was to my detriment. I lost a lot of movement in the ball. I had a hard time throwing a breaking ball from that angle. My changeup was absolutely trash because it was not my slot. It wasn't where I like to throw things at. Mm-hmm. And it probably wasn't even until, like I said, nearly into college before I realized my arm slot was way down here. And that's where I used to throw. You know, I looked at old videos and that's where it was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so like talking to that point, you know, with being a kid and taking instructions, stuff like that. So I used to teach pitching and hitting instructions I did it for probably about 6 years. Back here in St. Louis at 2 different facilities up here. And my whole thing was, and I told all the kids and parents as well, I said, I'm not going to sit here and say, this is how it has to be done. Your arm's got to be here. Your legs got to be like this. You got to go like this. I said, what I'm going to try to do is teach you guys how to throw strikes, or I'm going to teach you how to hit a baseball the best way that I know how with your mechanics that you guys already have set up, right? Because, I mean, you know just as well as I do, you throw differently than I do. I throw differently than you do. So there's no two people that are the same.
Nope.
And you either have it or you don't. And you're going to do it your certain way anyway, no matter what.
You can see it in the MLB right now. I mean, if you really analyze the pitchers from top to bottom, every one of them throws the ball different. You got a guy in there that throws way low, you know, and that's just how he naturally throws. You can't duplicate that. Take that guy throwing over the top and have him throw down there. He can't do it. It's impossible. You know, take the guy that's down here and bring him over the top. I bet he loses 6 miles an hour. You know, that's the way it is, man. It just, you have to, kudos to you. You know, that's the way you should be doing it for sure.
Yeah. And you know, like hearing other instructors and stuff like that as I'm going through this thing, they're like, oh, well, we need to all get in line and we got to have our hands here. And then we got to move our feet like this. And we got to have a leg kick. And we got to do this. And we got to do that. I'm like, no. My biggest thing is I'm going to teach you guys how to go from point A to point B as fast as you can and most efficiently as you can. And as long as your bat goes from here to here in a nice pattern, I don't care what you do. Right?
Right.
Now, one thing that I did a lot with kids, because it helped me out when I was just learning basically how to hit myself, was I took out the leg kick, right? So instead of picking up the leg and then dropping it back down, well, I would just start there anyway. You know what I mean? So I would start basically where I'm going to end up. And then I would just load off that front and come through and swing and hit.
Make it a little simpler.
Yeah, because I'm cutting out a step. The more steps you have going on in a process, the more things that can go wrong within the swing or the pitching stance or, you know, whatever it is like that. So
sure,
I would just try to delete all the nonsense and get them to go from here to here as fast as you can get there.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. The trouble is maybe for some people that they naturally could do that big stride, and that would be the crazy thing is when you see some of these athletes that can do these really crazy stances and they can develop more power. You think of Bryce Harper. That guy probably at a really early age, if he had the wrong coach, he might be in a completely different situation because that big leg kick, if he wasn't actually making great contact, I can promise you his coach would tell him to quit doing that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I wouldn't say tell the kids, oh, this is how you have to do it. But if their mechanics were so jacked up, because a lot of times, especially these younger kids, they'll watch an MLB game and then they'll try to mimic their favorite player, right? That's basically what they're doing. every time.
Right.
And I always ask them, I go, how much money are you guys making this year? They kind of look at me all crazy-eyed.
That's a pretty funny question.
And I'm like, they're like, well, we're not making any money. I said, exactly. I said, so all your A-Rod stuff that you're doing with your bat and leg kicks, I said, let's just try to get rid of that. Just try it out for me. Let's see what happens.
The big key is, are you making contact? If you're not making contact, then all that funny stuff you're doing, let's make it as simple as possible. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know that that's not part of it. If you could build a young athlete's confidence and you can teach that young athlete, you know, be natural, be fluid. Are you making good contact? If you're making good contact and you want more power, can we get more out of your swing? Can we get a little bit more velocity out of your pitching stance? You do kind of close yourself off, but it does give you better movement. Are you throwing strikes? You know, are you a skinny beanpole? Maybe we need to build a little bit of core strength, and you might have a decent fastball there rather than making you a 12-6 over the top kind of rotation to try to weasel out some MPHs on your, you know, a four-seam fastball, you know.
Right.
That was kind of like a lot of the tips that I was getting when I was younger, is all of the coaches that I worked with were very over-the-top guys. They were 12-6 rotation. They threw really heavy balls, and that's what they tried to get out of me nearly as soon as I joined their team, which unfortunately for me, it kind of there wasn't a lot of slingers out there, you know. So a guy that's down low, that three-quarter slot, you know, has a lot of movement on their ball. That's what made me successful. So me thinking, come set, throw the ball, get the hand up, get good rotation on the whatever. That's the way my brain ticks. Every little millimeter of movement, my brain wants to make it perfect. And, you know, perfectionism is cool until it's not.
Exactly.
Until it's not. You know, did you have any coaches ever try to change your form or change the way you were either hitting or throwing?
No. And I think that's why I taught these kids the way I taught them. Because I never had a coach that was like, well, we're going to take your arm slot. My arm slot was always about right here, right on the side. And I never had any coach that, you got to come more over the top or you got to drop down a little bit more.
It's probably because you had a positive result. You threw hard. You know what I mean?
I threw hard and I could throw strikes, right? So that helped me out. So the coaches would just, like I had Al Nipper as one of my pitching coaches. He was the Boston Red Sox coach for the longest time for the bullpen. And, you know, he would break it down, but he was just real genuine with it. Like he would say, you know, we're not going to change you from here because, you know, if you look at this other pitcher who's a major leaguer, he throws like that too. So it works. You throw hard. You're throwing strikes. So let's try to get the most out of where you're at right now because it's the most natural for you. And, you know, we just kind of built upon that.
I would have died to have a coach like that. You know what I mean? Like that would have been perfect.
I mean, I think my demise with baseball and the reason like I kind of stopped after college was I didn't get into the gym at an early enough age to get like the workouts and stuff like that down to where when I got to college, I was just building upon more mass and, you know, a stronger arm or stronger legs or whatever. I probably really didn't start hitting the gym till it was probably senior year, high school, right? You know, freshman year of college. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like your journey started way differently. You started working out at like 12 years old.
Well, unfortunately, yes and no. Like I said, I had a very unique situation because I'm an extreme perfectionist, and it can be a good thing or a bad thing. And I wish that I would have known more about diet and nutrition as far as a sports performance level would have been at an earlier age. You know, being an overweight kid, it kind of went the other way. I learned how to lose fat, but I also learned how to lose all muscle mass. And then I also learned how to maintain such a low caloric intake that I didn't get to build muscle. So when I hit this huge growth spurt, rather than having proper nutrition, enough protein, getting in a good carbohydrates, having a balanced deal, I'm eating a box of donuts for breakfast because, you know, I'm 6'4" now, weigh $165, and everyone's telling me I need to gain some weight. So I guess I'll just try to eat some donuts. I mean, unfortunately, that was kind of I worked my tail off. I did all the exercises, and then until I understood what nutrition had anything to do with anything, it's kind of spinning your wheels. You know, if you don't have any building blocks, you're not really going to put on much of that size that there is. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time, you know, in videos and things trying to preach core strength, stability, all those things because That's something I feel like is downplayed an awful lot. When you have these kids that are in their growth spurt, you're not going to see these positive muscle gains that they want to see. Ego is a huge thing in high school.
Oh,
and when
yeah.
you're getting in there and you want to get in the gym and you've got all these guys that developed a little bit earlier than you and they're lifting more weight than you, all you're trying to do is lift that amount of weight. When in all reality, it's just not going to happen. You're in the middle of a growth spurt and you are not going to be building muscle until them bones get a little longer. And it just is what it is. And I think that there's some of those transition points that if people were a little bit more realistic with what's truly going on, you can't just muscle your way through a growth spurt. But if you were smart about it, you could build really firm, consistently long, strong rotator cuff, labrum that's in perfect alignment. Get your stability, your back muscles all really trying to support your chest when all of a sudden you're just trying to get every ego lift there is. Get the body in shape as far as your core is concerned. Or can you do a side plank? Can you do a normal plank? There's just so many exercises that you could do during that stage to develop your coordination faster. I think that is like the ultimate goal of youth sports, that if you get to that point, and I get it. Remember, when you're a kid, all of a sudden you almost are an adult at that like 8 to 12-year-old range. Your body's not growing. You get stronger than your peers if you're the most athletic one in the group. You're better across the board at every bit of the sport. You're faster, you're stronger, you're more athletic, you have great confidence. And then when you hit your growth spurt, for some people, if you get real tall, it's like everything gets put on hold. And if you hit that growth spurt after everyone else, it could be a bit of a confidence, boot. You're not the biggest, you're not the strongest, you're none of those things. Or even your coordination fades. You know what I mean? Like for me, when I grew, my coordination was really lacking. I played basketball as well. And when I played basketball, all of a sudden I was a terrible defender because I couldn't move from side to side. My bones would not keep up with my brain. I just could not make them do it. And I don't know that I looked goofy or anything, but I was not like an elite defender. And it was because I was growing so much. And, when I use K-bands with athletes all the time, that's what I see a ton of. If you can build your hips at an earlier age in that little window, man, you just get it back so fast.
Right. And I mean, talking to that point, I mean, these kids nowadays, they have like conditioning practice. They have weight training practice. Okay. So like I know for my son's hockey thing, they do this thing called dry land practice, right? So it's 45 minutes of shooting drills, which is all off the ice. It's like a synthetic ice that they practice on. But they also do like a whole workout. So they're pulling sleds, they're flipping tires.
That's cool.
They're doing sit-ups, push-ups. I mean, they're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. Funny thing, that was around Christmas time we had that, right? The dry land practice. My son gets done, and he's like, "Hey, Dad." I say, "What's up, buddy?" He goes, "Hey, for Christmas, you think I can get a tire for Christmas?"
Like a Bigfoot tire?
I'm like, "You want a tire?" I said, "What do you want a tire for?" He goes, "So I can work out, so I can flip it in the basement." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?"
That's cool though that he's in it to win it, man.
I mean, his whole like demeanor about hockey. I have never seen somebody love something so much, right? I mean, I get teared up whenever I talk about it because I never loved anything like that. I mean, I loved baseball. I loved practicing it and doing all the things, but I was never like this kid was. So
yeah. It'll be curious. It'll be interesting to see how big he gets. Is he going to get to that ice hockey height that he needs to be? I mean, let's be honest, genetics play a big role in all this stuff. So,
absolutely.
Is he going to get over, into the 6 foot range? Is he going to put on the mass at the right time? It sounds like he's going through all the steps.
Doctors say he's supposed to be 6'2", so fingers crossed right there.
Boy.
So we'll see.
Not from you though, huh?
No.
Make sure you thank your wife, would you?
I don't think it's from them either.
Oh, mailman.
Well, I think it's down the gene pool line, So we'll see.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's always fun to hear when someone really loves something. And I hope he continues to enjoy it. I've seen a lot of that burnout stuff. All the youth training I've done, and it's a shame when you see a kid really, really love something and then it just kind of goes away. Or they get a girlfriend, and all of a sudden, that girlfriend's a lot funner than this sport. I think most men can relate to what that scene looks like.
Absolutely, right there.
Now, have you been doing any other shopping? Have you looked at any of these? I just had some conversations with my brother about electric vehicles, and I've been looking at the Ford Lightning and the Silverado. Have you looked at those at all?
So I've checked out I've checked them both out a little bit. Initially, when the Ford Lightning came out, I was like, man, I want that truck. Like, it's cool. It's futuristic, right? I mean, if my power goes out in my house, I can charge my house. I mean, how cool is that?
Wasn't that one of the neatest things when they had that power outage in Texas? They sent those electric vehicles, or maybe they were the hybrids at the time, but seeing that you could literally run, I think the story was some man's wife needed to be on oxygen. Their power went out for like a week, and he ran her oxygen tanks off his truck. Now, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's some big time stuff,
That's a next level truck.
And I'm sitting here thinking, like, what? I mean, anymore. I mean, power outages are pretty few and far between, right? Unless a power line gets cut or something like that. I don't know wherever you guys are at, but all of our power lines and everything are under the ground, so it kind of eliminates most of that. But it can still happen, obviously. But it's like, is that application really going to be something that I need to buy? Like,
well, I dug into it a ton, and I have to say that just like everything else, don't get it twisted. The marketers have all sat down. They pulled out their notepad. They said, item number 1, how do we make this $15,000 more than our current market? Okay, so now it's going to be this price point. Okay, so now how do we make more money than we would? Oh, let's take some of that stuff out. We don't need that anymore. Okay, let's put a bunch of plugs on this baby to make it more unique. And then why don't we have some kind of an upgrade that makes this really expensive, but you have to have it? And to be quite honest, that is like exactly to a T this industry. When you look at the Ford Lightning, or if you look at the Silverado, now the Silverado, on the other hand, they have a 400-mile range.
Yeah, now, that's huge.
The 400-mile range seems to be a little bit higher than most of the competitors, but I don't think, and I may be wrong, people have to comment below if I am, but I don't think that it's been finalized yet, or you can even order that Silverado. I'm not positive on that.
No, I don't think that comes out until like 2024, 25.
Yeah, so they don't have all their... They don't have all their pricing structures yet. They don't have all the stuff. They're probably going to sell a 300-mile one and then a 400-mile.
Right.
But when you really look at the model is we're going to give you just enough miles to where you have to upgrade. You could do it, but it's going to be more inconvenient. So then you're going to upgrade, and you're going to spend $90,000 on a truck. That's what they're doing.
So my opinion is if Chevy is ahead of the game, what they're going to do is they're going to make the Silverado, the lowest model, go as far as Ford's highest model. That's what they should do.
It could be. I don't know. As of right now, they both have super similar features. The Ford Lightning, I believe that you can actually get it this year. The frunk or whatever they're calling it in the front end of the truck.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, having that kind of size in the front where it's just a standard trunk. That's a neat addition. And then all the plugs and things in the back. I think of construction workers and things. If you could run all your tools out of the back, and then when you get done for the day, plug them all in to charge overnight, and you never have to take another step when you get home, that's a pretty great addition.
I mean, yeah, think about all of the different add-ons you could do. Like, other companies, they can make toolboxes that plug into the outlets, and then you put your drill chargers in there, your saw chargers. I mean, literally everything you could charge off that one truck.
The problem is that worker isn't buying a $90,000 truck.
No, they're not. I mean, I think that truck is going to be about $105,000 to $120,000. I mean, comment below if you guys think something different, but I mean, that's kind of where my ballpark's at right now.
So the Ford F-150, after clicking around their site, the little Lightning, they're claiming you could get into it like 40, 45, but let's be honest, that's probably what no one will buy. And it's, I think mid-200s is the range. So if you want the longer range, it's another 10 or 15 grand to get the 300-plus range. I want to say when me and my brother were really digging into it, it was right around like $70,000 would get you a nice truck that you would think about buying. While if you bought a gas-powered one, you're probably around like 60. And unfortunately, I mean, they're all just kind of crazy. And these prices are, I know, of course, you're going to murder me in the comments talking about how there's cheaper options. But let's be honest, no one is buying a single cab XL these days. It's not happening.
No.
If you got kids, you need 4 doors. If you're even a construction worker, you're not just going to use that truck most likely only for driving to the job. So you're buying the crew cab. The crew cabs start around 40, 45. You're probably going to do a little bit bigger motor than a 2.3 or 7, whatever that is, if you're pulling anything. So you're upgrading motor, you're upgrading that. You're going to get some kind of a package that looks a little nicer. And as soon as you do any of those options, you're into the 50s regardless. I went to the dealership maybe like a week ago to get some work done on my truck, and it was kind of interesting. The dealer told me that they are literally $10,000 to $15,000 over MSRP on all vehicles on their lot. So if they have anything on the lot, they're selling them for $10,000 to $15,000 more than MSRP. And if you buy them from the dealer, you got to wait 8 months-ish, and you're paying full price, no discounts, no nothing.
Holy mackerel.
Isn't that
crazy? Well, I mean, like, that's comparable to the housing market, man. Like,
yeah.
I mean, houses in our subdivision, they're still building here. And, I mean, they're going through the roof. I mean, they're raising the prices of these houses literally almost every other week. And it's like $3,000 to $5,000 a week.
It's kind of crazy. I think I spoke with another friend of mine, and they are building a house as we speak, and they locked in at a rate of 3.5, which was slightly higher than what everything was when they started the build. So we're at month, I want to say 11 or 12 now. And they said if they don't get the property done, of course, in time for the lock-in 60-day, that the rate is 4.8. So
that's huge. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, you're talking, I'm spitballing here, but maybe $30,000-ish more by the end of it.
Oh, it's probably a little bit more than that. But
you think so?
I think it's a little bit more than that. But I mean, you're talking on a monthly payment. That's probably a difference of $400. I would have to do the math, but I would say it's probably $400 different, $300 to $400.
That's going to be a game changer. You know,
I mean, that's over a point.
How long do you think it will take, or what do you think the rate will have to be to nearly like put the brakes on this sprint? Because for full context, I have several different friends and family that have all done this hurry and move. We got to hurry and move because the interest rates are low and we get more value out of our house. So we got to go. Tons of people I know have taken advantage of the selling your house for more and buying for more, but a similar payment, right? You're a similar payment because of the rate possibly. And, when you really look at that whole picture, what does the rate have to be to hammer the brakes? I mean, these people are paying more than asking price to get these homes. What will the rate have to be? Is it now? Is it 4.8? Is it now?
I think that's probably, that's high. I mean, 4.8 is high.
Well, if you're talking even your $400, if you put $400 more on a house payment, I would imagine most everybody's got to downsize the house by like 700 square feet, don't they, to pay the same price?
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, depends on what your selling point is, and it's all what you can afford too, right? Like, I mean, when we got our house, we paid, I think it was a 2.5% or 2.8% is what our interest rate's at.
Right.
Any more than that, I mean, there's no way. I mean, I just wouldn't.
We ain't ever moving.
I'm never moving. I'm locked in, baby. Locked and loaded.
I mean, to tell you, though,
it
really is, though. Is that not like a hard decision to make? I mean, what would you even be? We grew up, or we bought houses and were part of an era of moving property in a time when interest rates were at the lowest ever. I've got a lot of older friends and people that I chit-chat with, mentors and things, and they talk about when the rates were at 18%, 12%.
Yeah, mom and dads,
Could you imagine right now on what you're used to, your context of home buying, if the rates were literally at 12%, I would like live in my parents' basement, I think.
I would not have a house, I'd be renting.
So at 12%, I wish I knew that off the top of my head, but would that be safe to say 3 times the interest, I guess? I mean, that's what that means, correct? If you went from a 4 to a 12, so it would be astronomical.
Yeah, you're probably talking about almost a $2,000 increase on your housing payment.
Yeah, right? That would be nuts. So do you think that you'll see it fast? Like all the builders are going to get cut out to dry, and it's going to move back to renting? I mean, renting's not much cheaper right now.
Renting is more expensive now. I mean, I've had a couple buddies that are building in here right now that renting a house and stuff like that, and some of their payments are just through the roof. I'm like, dude, that's more than my house payment. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, we have a close friend of ours that just bought a townhome, and I think it's like a 1,300 square foot townhome, and her monthly mortgage is $200 less than renting a 1-bedroom studio 650 square foot apartment.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's nuts.
And I don't see it. I don't see any of this stuff changing anytime soon. I don't see it crashing. I don't see it. I just don't see it going anywhere. I mean, you're good. Like, so I'm in the transportation business, so I know about, truckload prices and things like that. So with the cost of goods going up, I mean, everything has to keep going up.
Right.
Just because that's how it is.
Well, you got to think though, the difference is when the interest rates go up, then people are going to stop buying houses.
True.
That will slow. But it doesn't mean that anything's going to be cheaper. Doesn't mean that what's coming out of your pocket's going to change any. It just means that less people are going to be moving.
Yeah, and we'll kind of have to see what happens. It's a game that is kind of new to everybody right now, and what has been going on for 2 years, 3 years, I guess, something like that.
One of the craziest things that I've kind of reflected on a bit that I think everyone probably thinks, but maybe hasn't thought of the words to articulate it. You can't tell me that this isn't feeling a little bit like monopoly money. Everybody 2 years ago literally just sent us checks. Everybody, hey, you get a check, you get a check, you get a check. Everybody's getting checks, and now all of a sudden we're just going to pretend the interest rates have to be higher. Well, they got to be higher, or we're going to have problems. Oh, but we're going to send you a check because gas is too high, and then we're going to do it. Tell me it doesn't feel like it's monopoly money, because all you got to do is leave the interest rates low, and everybody's still probably going to fire sale buy houses. Now,
oh yeah,
I get the supply and demand thing. I get that you can't keep it up forever, but at the same time, just because you decided that the interest rate is 6% and slowed down the market, you still just decided that. Why don't you just send us a check because the interest rates are too high? Where's that? Could I get a home allowance? I'm going to need $1,000 extra a month because, the interest rates are at 6.5% now, and I'm going to need that. And then don't forget my gas check, because gas is now expensive as well. So if you could just wipe out my debt too, I'm all in. I am all in.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to live here. That's no problem.
Isn't that crazy, though? You think that a gas check will occur? Do you think we're going to get a check in the mail for gas?
I would hope not. I really, really hope not.
If that takes place, tell me that it doesn't seem like monopoly money.
Oh, it is monopoly money at that point. I mean, it's just we are our own demise at that point. I mean, we should not do that.
But at the same time, what's China going to be like? Hey, I'm going to need that check by Monday.
Yeah. Hey, you put that there.
We kind of decided that we're going to need some of that debt paid off, and I think that's the craziest thing about that is I don't really see the end game. I don't really understand it. The whole world's going to have to collapse, but then there's probably going to be some kind of a global war or a conflict that, let's be honest, debt's over. There was a war. Sorry. I could easily see something like that taking place, or the government backs a crypto-based currency or something. I mean,
I can see that happening. I can see cryptocurrency kind of coming up a little bit more faster than what it is now.
Think about, and again, I understand that this is extremely complicated and not that easy. But think about this. You have this currency, right? Tremendous debt. You've been playing this game. You're writing people's checks because your society can't keep up with the cost of things. You're trying to plug and play. And then what do you do one day if you just started over the currency model? We don't want to use cash anymore, the dollar. We'll use a digital currency. And I don't know if you guys know this, but when we turned it on, our balance said zero again. So we don't owe anybody any money in this currency. So all of that fake life that we were doing, where we were charging interest rates from all of our people, where we were taxing and borrowing from this country to do this, we're going to use this currency now to buy fuel. we're going to use this currency now to trade internationally, and our debt is zero on that currency. And then all of a sudden, all that debt, what do you think happens to that real value? It becomes next to nothing because the real currency value is X. And this dollar drops off the table because no one trades in it anymore. So you know how easy that would be to pay that debt off? We're going to give you 400 of X crypto whatevers. That should wipe out that cash dollar debt that doesn't mean anything, doesn't it?
Yes, I think the whole crypto thing is gonna turn some heads, man. I mean, I don't know if you're in it at all. Buying
just a little
like that.
Some brief reading. I haven't. I'm not a day trader in the cryptos. I've heard of a lot of people getting burned. But you know, I'd say that's we'll do cryptos for another day. I appreciate you coming on. I hope you had a good time. I think if anybody's got any questions, jump in the comments. You know, jump in here and interact with us. But please feel free to watch my other episodes. We've got another episode where we did a whole EV car experience with my brother. Dive into that one now.